Okay, welcome back to another episode of Crazy Dad's Garage. I'm going to do a little video here of something that when I finally learned this, it saved me days and hours of time and frustration and lots of inappropriate language as I was working on engines. And that is how to install a distributor, at least in a small or big block Chevy. So I'm going to go into that here. I'm going to back up here and restart this video from another point here for just a second. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so here we go on how to install the distributor on either a big block Chevy, which this is, or a small block Chevy. They're both the same, almost the exact same procedure. And this is just an indication of why this can be a problem. The way this distributor's set up right now, he said it was running, but I almost don't see how it could have been. Or if it did, it could have been running a lot better. Right now, my rotor is set up pointing right here. And that is, this should be my number one distributor wire. So, oh, by the way, I have the engine set on top dead center on the compression stroke, so it should be pointing roughly at the number one distributor wire. The problem is when I follow this one out, that's my number 8 distributor wire, which is the second one in the firing order, and this is my number 1, which it was already passed, which doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know. I'm going to double check the current settings on this so I can put it back into that spot if I need to. But this is how you should set up the distributor, install the distributor and set it up on a big block or small block Chevy. Okay, so we'll walk through that process. So the first thing you need to do is come over here and find your timing mark on the harmonic balancer. Get time to focus there. So that's this groove on the balancer right there. And you need to be aware if you're having problems and you haven't replaced your balancer with a new one, sometimes this rubber ring here that goes around the balancer it breaks down and allows this outer sleeve to slip, so this may not be actually at the 0 mark. But most of the time you're not going to run into that. So you want to get that mark into the 0 mark, which on this style of a deal, it's all rusty, you can't see it, but has all of these notches in it there, and this deepest notch is your 0 mark. So get it set there on the compression stroke. So remember, only every other stroke is a compression stroke on an engine, 4-stroke engine like this. And the way you do that, come over here, pull the spark plug out on the number 1 cylinder, and you can either have somebody hold their finger in there while you crank the engine over with a wrench. Don't do it while it's hooked up. I guess you can, but anyway, and they will feel compression as you're approaching that, and then you can just crank the mark over to where it needs to be. That's one simple way. What I've started doing a lot lately, I've got a compression gauge, and I just screw my compression gauge in here and crank that around until I see movement on that gauge. And it won't take it up real high because you're going so slow. But as you come up and you get a reading on your pressure gauge, you know that you're on the compression stroke here. So that's your 2 basic ways to do that. The third one, I guess, if you want to take the valve cover off, you could make sure that both of the rocker arms are in the relaxed position. When it comes up on the other stroke, one of your rocker arms is going to be compressing a valve, and you'll be able to tell that. So you want to get your engine in at top dead center on the compression stroke, and then you're going to come back here and pull your distributor out, which I am going to do here in just a second off camera so that we can see that. And I'll come back and show you what we've got at that point. Okay, so we got that out of the distributor out of the way. Now, step number 2 is And this is where you get most of your frustration when you're trying to do this. Got to get my light where I can actually see what I want to look at. Okay, looking at the top of the distributor or the oil pump drive shaft down there. Oh boy, come on. Get light in there and focus. That's going to be the fun part. Well, you can kind of see the slot in the top of the drive shaft there. And you're going to want to take a long flat-bladed screwdriver and reach down in there, and you're going to want to set that slot, turn that slot to where, I'll show you out here, that slot is lined up in an 11 o'clock, 5 o'clock type positioning with the engine. So this would be 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. You're going to want it at an 11 o'clock, 5 o'clock position. So that slot wants to be running across this way, down inside of there. And if you get that taken care of, that's going to solve one of your biggest puzzles, and that's getting all the alignment to work out with the gears here. So we've got the engine set at top dead center with on the 0 mark down there on the timing mark. We get the oil pump drive shaft slot at an 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock position. And then you're going to want to use this bolt right here as a reference point. As you drop your distributor down in there, you're going to want to have the rotor of your distributor pointing at this bolt. And when you do that, it's going to engage the gear on the camshaft, and it's going to roll right down and drop in and perfectly engage that oil pump drive shaft down there. And so I'll get my camera set up on a tripod here, and so I can have my hands free to show you how that process will work. Okay, so here we go. As we put this thing in here, we're going to want to install it with the vacuum advanced canister pointing generally over here. I'm going to say about in the 1:30 to 2 o'clock position on the clocked in. And then you're going to want to take the point of your rotor here, and as we set the thing down in, so I've got it going in here, right before it engages, I want to point the point of this rotor at that second bolt that I indicated to you just a minute ago. And as we drop that down in now, that should drop right down in and engage with the camshaft and drop right down in until it's fully engaged now with the camshaft and with the oil pump drive shaft down there. And one of the things that you're looking for at this point, I'm going to pull the camera off here. This is when you know you're in the right position, is when you've got your distributor fully seated now down in the engine. And that means that it's engaged with the camshaft, with the oil pump drive shaft, and everything. And so what that does now, I'm going to flip the camera around here, so I'll be back in a second. What that does now is that has us with our distributor point pointing, okay, here's your 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position with your engine. It's got it pointing a little bit to the left of that, kind of running up right off the front corner of the valve cover over there is really where it's pointing at. And when we're there, now, when we take our distributor cap, sorry for all the confusion here, there we go. I'm going to take your distributor cap and set it back down on there in its correct position. Now, the distributor cap is going to be pointing at this pole right here on your for your spark plugs, and this is our #1 spark plug wire. So it'll run over there, and that'll start lining things up the way we need to. Now we're going to put our plug wires on, make sure that we've got them in the correct firing order, and the firing order rotates clockwise on this, looking down from the top. And it's printed over here on the manifold, 1843, Yeah, I can't read all of them off or with the camera running, but anyway, so we're going to start around. So we'll go 1, 8, 4, 3, and continue that firing order on around the engine. So that will have us in the correct position. And then, as we get those in, we get everything, all the wires plugged in the way that they're supposed to be. The last thing that we want to do is set up so that these lines on the coil right here, and you've got your place where the wires plug in on your cap, you want those parallel with the back of the engine or with your firewall. And when you've got them there, you're going to have them in a position where it'll start and run pretty good. And you still want to fine tune your timing at that point. But put it in so it lines up there, lock it down so that it doesn't move on you, and you should have your engine in position so that it will start right up the first time and fire and run acceptably well so that you can get the tuning done on it. Now that right there saved me hours of time once I finally learned that trick. I literally, on the Crazy Dad Rat Rod, when I was putting the motor in it, if you'll remember, I spent a day to a day and a half trying to get the thing to run because I didn't know the simple tricks for getting that distributor lined up. And I fought it, and when I finally learned this trick on my small block Chevy in the Rat Rod, I dropped that in there, tightened it down with the lines parallel to the back engine, with my spark plug wires in the correct firing order, and I walked in and hit the key, and it fired up and ran just like that. It was that much of a difference maker and time saver. So there you go. That's just a little trick on how to install the distributor, small block Chevy or big block Chevy, either one. Both of them are the same way. And so there you go. We'll be back to you to move forward in the process. Hey, so I just want to wrap up this video by reiterating the basic steps of what I just showed you so that you get the, it's so simple that it blew my mind when I actually figured it out. But I'll just tell you what those steps are. So the first thing is get your timing mark on the harmonic balancer lined up with your 0 mark on your pointer on your compression stroke. And make sure that it's not 180 degrees out or 1 full revolution out, and so that it's not on the compression stroke, so make sure you get that in place. Step number 2, set your oil pump drive shaft in that 11 and 5 position, so that the slot in there is matches those numbers on the clock. Okay. Then as you go to drop it in, you want your vacuum canister part of the advance, you want it pointing generally about the 130 position as you're standing behind the engine. If you're doing this from the front with it in the car, obviously it's going to be exactly the opposite of that. That'll put it at like the 630 position. 630? No, 730 position. Okay, and then as you go to lower it in, you want your rotor, while you're holding that vacuum can in that position, you want your rotor pointing at that second to the back manifold bolt, intake manifold bolt. And when you do that, the thing should drop right in, engage the camshaft, swing around a little bit, and drop right on the oil pump drive shaft, and leave you lined up, pointing at the number 1 post on your distributor cap. So then set the cap on top of the distributor with the coil on it and everything, and align the parallel lines on top of the coil with the back of the engine, so they're parallel to the back of the engine or parallel to the firewall. And then snug down your hold down bolt to hold it in that position, and now you'll be timed to where the thing will start and run fairly good, so that you can then get a timing light on it and adjust it and fine-tune that timing. And the last thing is that your number 1 plug needs to be on the post on the distributor that is the 3rd one. So if you're going, It's the third one counterclockwise from the vacuum advance canister where it goes in. So there is one post on the distributor that's almost on top of that vacuum advance canister. Start counting that one and go 1, 2, 3 counterclockwise, and that's where your number one plug wire goes. And then put them in order of your firing order in a clockwise rotation, and find your firing order on your intake manifold. When you do that, get all those in the right position, all these things that we just told you, it's going to fire up and run, and it'll run pretty dang good just like that. And then, like I said, get your timing light and fine-tune the thing, and you'll be in business. You'll save yourself lots of headaches, and like me, probably a few swear words yelling at the thing because it's not working right, and especially trying to get it to drop down on that oil pump drive shaft and go where it's supposed to. It's so simple this way. It makes everything such a piece of cake, and I've heard so many descriptions over the years of how to do this, and every one of them left me scratching my head. I'd get back and actually try to do it, and I couldn't figure out exactly what they were saying. So just do it this way. It's ultra simple, and it works, and it saves you massive amounts of headache. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful, and I'm not the only guy out there that's telling you how to do this on YouTube, but I wanted to throw it in here because it was an extremely useful piece of information that I found, and maybe not everybody's going to find the other guys necessarily. So there you go. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment, give us a like. We really enjoy interacting with everybody, and hope you're having fun working on your old cars. Talk to you later.